She was very happy. She would be 11 weeks pregnant this week.
The sisters of a missing local 18-year-old woman who's pregnant reveals new details on her mysterious disappearance. Kylee Monteiro has not been seen in more than a week. She was reported missing by her boyfriend. Kylie's sisters are desperate for answers as police continue to search Rehoboth, where she was last seen.
On a crisp October morning in Massachusetts, the Monteiro family's lives changed forever. Kylee Monteiro, a bright 24-year-old woman with dreams, friendships, and a promising future, disappeared without a trace. She wasn't someone who blended quietly into the background. Friends described her as radiant, full of laughter, and the type of person who would go out of her way to make others feel seen. She loved music, late-night talks, and long drives. Yet on that morning, something shifted. And by the end of the day, Kylee would be gone, leaving behind questions that would torment her family, friends, and an entire community. Kylie's story didn't begin with mystery. It began with a normal life, marked by ambition and resilience. She was deeply rooted in her family, especially close to her mother and younger siblings. Kylee had worked hard to carve a place for herself in the world, balancing jobs, relationships, and personal goals. To those who knew her, she wasn't just another young woman. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, someone who had a future that mattered. The morning of her disappearance started like any other. The air was sharp with the coolness of autumn, the kind of day where leaves crunch underfoot and the world seems alive with change. Kylee had plans. There was nothing to suggest she would suddenly vanish. She had spoken to friends earlier in the week, texted family members, and even discussed future events she was looking forward to. No warning signs, no goodbyes, just an abrupt silence that fell over her world. By midday, her absence became noticeable. Calls went unanswered, messages left unread. At first, friends assumed she was busy, maybe caught up in work or personal errands. But as the hours stretched on, unease crept in. Kylee wasn't someone who ignored her phone for long periods, especially not when her family was trying to reach her. Concern quickly escalated into fear when evening came, and she had still not returned home. That was when the Monteiro family knew something was very wrong. Her mother's voice shook when she called local authorities to report her daughter missing. No mother imagines uttering those words, that their child is gone and they don't know where. Within hours, a search began. Small at first, then rapidly growing as word spread through the community. Flyers were printed with Kylee's face, her bright smile staring back at strangers in grocery stores, gas stations, and coffee shops. Social media exploded with posts, shares, and pleas for help. Everyone hoped that maybe, just maybe, she would walk through the door, and all of this would dissolve into nothing more than a frightening misunderstanding. In the midst of the chaos, one heartbreaking reality emerged. When someone disappears, life doesn't pause for the ones left searching. Bills still arrive. Jobs still demand attention. Daily responsibilities pile up even as grief and panic consume every waking moment. For the Monteiro family, it was a balancing act between holding on to hope and navigating the crushing weight of uncertainty. What happened to Kylee Monteiro that day? Was it a choice? A sudden decision to leave everything behind? Or was it something darker? Something sinister lurking in the shadows? That uncertainty is what haunts most families of the missing, the not knowing. Because closure, whether in the form of answers, justice, or even tragedy, at least allows healing to begin. But when someone vanishes without explanation, the wound stays open, raw, and unbearable. Kylee's story was not just about her disappearance, but about the ripple effects it left in its wake. Her siblings struggled to focus at school, constantly distracted by whispers and sympathetic stares. Her friends replayed their last conversations, wondering if they had missed a clue, a warning, some sign that she was in danger. And her mother? Her mother carried the kind of pain no words can capture. Each night, she sat by the window, hoping the next set of headlights pulling into the driveway would be Kylee returning home. As the first week closed with no sign of her, the media began to take interest. Local news stations broadcasted her image, asking the public for tips. Reporters stood in front of the family's home, describing Kylee's last known whereabouts. While some saw this as a way to spread awareness, others criticized the invasion of privacy. For the Monteiros, it was both a blessing and a curse. They needed the exposure to find her, but each headline was also a reminder of the nightmare they were living in. In many missing persons cases, time is the enemy. The longer someone is gone, the colder the trail becomes. But Kylee's loved ones refused to give up. Candlelight vigils were organized, prayers were lifted, and the community held fast to the hope that she would be found. Kylee Monteiro was more than a name on a flyer. She was more than another missing person statistic. She was someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's best friend. And on that October morning, she was taken from all of them. Whether by choice or by force, no one could yet say. But what everyone knew for certain was this: her absence left a hole that nothing else could fill. And for her family, that hole grew deeper with each passing day. For weeks after Kylee Monteiro's disappearance, her family and friends clung to the fragile hope that she would walk through the door, smile as if nothing had happened, and put an end to their nightmare. But as days turned into weeks, whispers began to fill the silence, the kind of whispers that are heavier than words, because they carry fear, suspicion, and unanswered questions. The town where Kylee vanished was not a large one. News traveled fast, and rumors even faster. Some whispered that Kylee had simply run away, overwhelmed by pressures no one knew about. Others insisted something darker had happened, that she had fallen into the wrong crowd, or worse, crossed paths with someone who never intended for her to return. For her parents, every whispered theory cut like a knife. It wasn't just the uncertainty, it was the helplessness of not knowing which version, if any, held the truth. Detectives working on the case followed lead after lead, many of them dead ends. One of Kylee's last known text messages was combed over again and again. It didn't say much, just a casual check-in with a friend. But in cases like these, even the smallest details mattered. Who was she really with that night? Did someone follow her? Did she leave willingly? These were questions investigators asked repeatedly, but each answer seemed to unravel into more uncertainty. As the search dragged on, Kylee's friends struggled to cope in their own ways. Some organized vigils, lighting candles in her honor and praying for her safe return. Others posted her photos all over social media, desperate to keep her story alive and visible. Yet there was always that shadow of doubt. Was Kylee even alive? Could hope and reality exist side by side? Or was hope only delaying the inevitable heartbreak? One particularly haunting detail emerged when a witness came forward. They claimed to have seen a young woman matching Kylee's description walking alone near a desolate stretch of road the night she vanished. She seemed anxious, maybe even afraid. But by the time the witness realized something was off, the girl had already disappeared into the night. This sighting reignited hope, but it also deepened the mystery. Why was Kylee there? Who was she trying to meet or escape from? Behind the scenes, her parents began to face a painful conflict. They wanted to believe she would come home, but they also couldn't ignore the toll the waiting was taking on them. Nights were sleepless. Meals went uneaten. Their lives revolved around one single mission: finding Kylee. Every knock at the door, every ringing phone call carried the same question. Was this it? Was this finally the moment they would hear the truth? And yet the silence continued. Sometimes the most agonizing part of a disappearance is not the not knowing, but the stories that people invent to fill the gaps. The community's whispers became louder, theories more elaborate. Some suggested Kylee had staged her disappearance. Others believed she had been targeted by someone who knew her routines. Each theory carried its own brand of cruelty because every version robbed the family of peace. But through it all, one thing remained unshakable: the memory of Kylee herself. A vibrant young woman, full of promise, laughter, and dreams. Those who knew her best refused to let the whispers define her story. For them, Kylee was not just a missing person. She was a daughter, a friend, a loved one, whose absence left a wound that words could never fully describe. We stand at a crossroads in this story. The silence has grown deafening, the leads more fragile. Yet the human heart, even when burdened by uncertainty, continues to hope. The question is, how long can hope survive when the truth refuses to surface? The Monteiro household has never been the same since that fateful November day. Time has continued its relentless march forward. Seasons have changed, holidays have come and gone, and birthdays have passed uncelebrated. Yet, for Kylee's family, the world remains frozen in that single moment when she vanished without a trace. Her room, still preserved as she left it, is both a comfort and a torment. Posters still cling to the walls, her notebooks lie scattered on the desk, and the faint scent of her perfume lingers in the air. For her mother, walking into that space is like stepping back into Kylee's embrace, only to be jolted by the cruel reminder that she isn't coming home. Despite the countless vigils, flyers, and press conferences, the silence surrounding Kylee's disappearance has been deafening. The search parties eventually dwindled, the headlines grew cold, and the public's attention shifted elsewhere. But for her family, the agony has only deepened. The lack of answers has become its own form of punishment. Every knock at the door carries a flicker of hope, and every phone call sets their hearts racing, only to end in crushing disappointment. What makes Kylee's story so haunting is the absence of closure. Without a body, there is no grave to mourn at. Without answers, there is no way to move forward. Theories swirl endlessly, each one tugging at the family in a different direction. Was Kylee taken by someone she trusted? Did she leave of her own will, hoping to start anew somewhere far away? Or was she the victim of a random act of violence that went unnoticed in the chaos of everyday life? Each theory feels like a knife twisting deeper. Her father once confessed, through tears, that not knowing is worse than knowing. If we knew she was gone, we could grieve, but this limbo is unbearable. Even the investigators, hardened by years of experience, admit that Kylee's case keeps them awake at night. How can a young girl vanish in broad daylight in a neighborhood where everyone knew her face? How could there be no witnesses, no evidence, no clue left behind? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, how many more families are suffering in silence, trapped in the same cruel uncertainty? Because Kylee's story is not just about one girl. It is about the countless others whose names never make the headlines. It is about the families who cling to fading photographs and unanswered prayers. It is about the cracks in a society that allows people to disappear without a trace, with no justice, no resolution. If you are reading this, take a moment to remember Kylee. Let her name linger in your mind. Let her story remind you that behind every missing poster is a life full of dreams, and behind every headline is a family shattered by loss. And if you've stayed with us through this story, don't let Kylie's memory fade into silence. Share her story, speak her name, and let her life remind us all of the urgency of compassion. Because tomorrow, it could be someone you love. If this story moved you, consider supporting organizations that help find missing persons, or even just sharing awareness posts online. Every voice matters, and silence is what lets these cases vanish into the shadows.